This is Vicky, your host and unlicensed therapist for Black Writer Therapy Podcast. And today I am so excited to have Miss Vonetta Rain on my proverbial couch. Welcome to the Black Writer Therapy Podcast.
So, did you hear the new episode of Black Writer Doula Therapy? No, not yet. They are doing something completely different and out of the box. Like, it's mad crazy. How different could it be? No, seriously. Like, I've never heard a book podcast like this before. White people know? Nah. Ella? Yeah, it's still Ella Shine. Okay, I guess I'll tune in then. Welcome to the Black Writer Doula Therapy Podcast, where Black women writers are amplified, celebrated, and invited to be their unapologetic Black women selves. Each month, a Black woman writer joins host and unlicensed therapist Ella Shawn on her proverbial couch for candid conversations about writing, healing, and just about everything in between. For the rest of the month, Ella chooses hot topics from that conversation to delve deeper into and offer somatic-based, trauma-informed Black writer doula strategies. These strategies are designed to keep Black women writing through the difficult moments. Because the world is hell-bent on erasing our stories, and our ancestors and future descendants are depending on us to tell the truth of who we are. So, if you're ready for a podcast that offers more than author interviews and behind the book insights, then be sure to join us every Thursday on the Alive Podcast Network app or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you aren't supporting our storytellers, then don't complain about what is written about you and everybody else's version of our history.
Thank you, Vicky. So good to be here with you.
How are you feeling today?
I'm just so excited to connect with you and talk to you. So I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling great.
You look amazing. And I'm always gushing when I have all these beautiful women on my podcast because I'm a firm believer in giving roses when you can still smell them. And you are absolutely gorgeous, but it's not just like the physicality of you, right? Like physically gorgeous, obviously, right? But there's this really beautiful golden energy in you that makes me feel warm, and I feel very safe and kind of like, oh, I'm breathing.
Thank you. You know what? It's so great to meet you, connect with you, share this space with you, because we're like mirror reflections to each other. You see that in me and I see that in you. And I'm like, look at this light coming out of this queen. It is so true. So it's so beautiful to be here.
Yeah, this is a treat. It's probably going to be my favorite session of all three years. I already know it. Like of all 3 seasons, I feel like, yeah, this is it's going to be my favorite one. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. So I want to let the audience get to know you just a little bit. So I'll ask you a few questions from your bio. You are probably one of the most interesting women I've had the opportunity to have on the show. And I was reading your media kit and, looking up some other stuff. And I just want to gobble up all the words in this book. I can't wait until I have a moment to sit and delve into your book, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So I'm going to go with my first most interesting thing, right? Because I'm really nosy and fascinated. So 800 retreats around the world. See how I just throw information out like not a question, not a thing. 800 retreats around the world.
Right. Yes.
Whew. You don't even look tired.
I took a sabbatical during the pandemic. I actually was tired. I was so tired that I had insomnia for 4 years. So we could talk about that, right? But the 800 retreats, it just happened, Vicky. It just happened. I didn't plan it. I stepped in. I was called to this dharmic path. And I just said yes. I just said yes. And then the first one happened. And from the first one, the second one. And then I never marketed myself. It's all word of mouth, just one after the other. I just started working with people, supporting them, and whatever I said, let me be of service in whatever way I possibly can. And from that place, I supported people through mostly in finding their true selves. That was probably in all 800 ceremonies, I would say everyone is seeking to find the truth of their own essence, because we have grown up most people that I work with grew up in a Western world, conditioned by the Western mind. And that Western mind programming does not always foster our innate knowing and the truest sense of who we are. And so most people were searching for that, even though they didn't even know showing up to meet me that that's what they were looking for. But then a lot of people that I worked with, I happened to connect with people who were just like starting a journey that I had just, that I had already like been through, the journey of parenting. So a lot of my clients were parents who were struggling with balancing work, home life, not wanting to repeat the stories of their own childhood, not wanting to repeat the patterns of their ancestry, and coming to ceremonial space to clear, to release, to heal trauma. Then I worked with people who had illnesses, whether that be a mental illness, so PTSD, depression, anxiety, a loss, so losing a loved one or a parent very early or a child. And this is how I built a practice of supporting communities around the world through these ceremonies, 800 private and group retreats.
I absolutely love your phraseology, how you talk about what you do as a practice, as a service, not as this is how I built a da-da-da-da-da dollar, blah, blah, blah. No, this is my practice. This is my service.
Yes, it is a service. And I have always seen it as my sacred work. This is the sacred work that I came here to do, and I just showed up. I showed up. I kept showing up.
I love that she said, I said yes. I wrote that down. I just said yes. I just said yes. You hear so often, just say no, say no, be afraid. No. I just said yes. And it's like, whoa, that's revolutionary. Miss Vonetta, that is revolutionary to just say yes and not really know what you're saying yes to, but knowing that saying yes is exactly the right word for you in that moment.
It's wild. It's wild because thank you for sharing that, because it is revolutionary, especially at the time that I said yes to this. I was an Emmy award-winning graphic designer. I didn't know what I was fully stepping into. I wasn't aware of where this sacred work, the places, the depths that the sacred work would take me to, the amount of energy that I needed to hold for people to have these deep transformative processes. I didn't know any of that. I just knew that prior to saying yes, my big prayer was, number one, I want to find my soul family, because I had been living life without a deep connection to people. And I didn't even know what soul family was, but I knew that I needed to live my life with my soul family, continue operating on this earth without having my soul family with me. So that was my big prayer. And my other big prayer was, I just want to do my sacred God-purposeful work. I feel like I came to this earth and I wasn't as drawn to the shiny objects that a lot of people are drawn to. And so even in my early 20s, I wanted to join the Peace Corps. I was someone who was leaned toward service from a young age. And yet I found myself having to provide for my family, like take care of a mortgage, take care of a child? And how do you be of service and do that? That was a big question, but I had reached a point where there was no other choice for me.
Mhm.
I couldn't continue in that other path. I was getting sick. There were very strong signs that were pointing me in a direction of, hey, you need to dig deeper in this life.
Mhm.
You need to go deeper than where everyone is going right now for yourself first. And so that prayer became really strong for me. The prayer was, God, just show me I want to live my purpose. Help me find my purpose. And when this landed, I just knew this is it. This is what I'm here to do for the rest of my life.
There is a beautiful peace within you. But there's this ease, right? Because that's the word I associate most with. Because peace seems almost fleeting, right? Peace comes and peace goes. But if you're in a state of ease, then you have that. Like that is just where and who and what you are. And it's like so warm, like a big sun hug, right? This ease that is sitting with you. And I don't know that people, especially because we are so westernized, can differentiate between ease and peace, and why ease is that thing that's just like a good weighted blanket anytime you want to pull it up over yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
You look so like it's such an ease with you.
Thank
Gosh,
you.
that's absolutely. I could sit and talk. I could sit and listen all day because there's just something your words are like manna. Beautiful. You say your soul family. Can you speak a little bit to that for, say, people in the listening audience who may not know what that is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My experience of it is that there are groups of souls. So first of all, my belief structure is in reincarnation. It's something that my grandmother taught me when I was really young. She told me when I was 7, we were in church and my grandma said, Vonetta, do you see that man sitting over there? And I was like, yeah, grandma. Grandmama is what I called her actually, but I was like, yeah, grandmama. And she said, I know that man, but I have never seen that man before. And she said, I know that man from some other place, but I've never seen him before. And that made me pay attention. And then when I watched how they interacted as a 7-year-old, I could see a different type of energy happening between the two of them than my grandmother's interaction with everybody else. And she told me that she knew that she drowned in her last past life, and that's why she was deathly afraid of water. So from a very young age, I believed in reincarnation. I knew because my grandmother had this felt experience of having lived on this planet before and being born in her particular time. And so I believe soul family are groups of souls that come and reincarnate time and time again because they have a familiarity. Just like in this incarnation, we have a mother, a father, a sister or a brother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and we are a family that has been born into this time-space reality. And we call them our family because they are our closest relatives. What I believe is that in addition to having our family of this time, we also have soul families that we may have been born into in other lifetimes, other planets even. As I expand in my consciousness, I'm aware that I have soul family people that I have lived other lifetimes on other planets as well. And so this concept of soul family, it's like we've traveled this earth together before, or we've traveled some other star systems before. And so there's a familiarity that comes from our soul, not from being in this life. And I knew that I needed to find those people. And it changed my life to be surrounded by people who are soul family. I'm so grateful that I found them. And I keep finding them. You know what I mean?
Chills. I have absolute chills right now. I love that you are bringing all of this. I guess it's called esoteric, right? The esoteric stuff. I love that you are talking about this in a way that's very normal. And most people look at the word normal and they think, oh, that's such a put down. What are you saying? What I'm saying is like to normalize the truth of reincarnation, the existence of lives and soul families and travel and all of it. It becomes like if more people are normalizing this, hopefully it will wake more people up. because to me, this sounds like a normal, everyday, let's have a cup of tea conversation. To have these conversations every day with folk who may or may not have their sense of clarity, right? Then you sound like an abnormal person who may have a little problem, right?
It's so interesting. And you're so funny, right? No, it's so true, because I do think that people who haven't had experiences or haven't really dived deep into even philosophy and ancient religions, there is scientific evidence through theology that reincarnation is real. Hinduism is one of the oldest religions on this planet. Buddhism. So there are all of these systems that are ancient religions that speak to some of the processes and ideas that we are talking about, but it's been suppressed. So for most of our Western societies, we haven't been taught the ancient religions and the ancient sciences or metaphysics from a real science of quantum physics. The things that I'm talking about, it seems woo-woo only because we have not been taught that this is based in ancient scripture, ancient texts, ancient practices, or quantum physics. Right. But for me, I feel like part of my mission is to normalize these conversations because I was the most normal girl, one of the most normal girls on earth. I grew up in a very normal family. And so part of my story is that, hey, I woke up in a very normal family. I had a normal life. I started working when I was 12 years old at the donut shop in my hometown. Do you know what I mean? I just went to school. I rode my bike. I played in the brook. I created slingshots when I was young. I got into fights. I was normal. My family watches basketball every single day. You know what I mean? Like that's what we do. We make fried chicken. It's normal. Yet I just it actually started with these dreams that I had when I was 16. And I feel like that's what started. And so that's when I realized, okay, something is different for me than other people. And I listened to that because it was so profound that I could not turn my cheek away from it. We're normal. You are normal.
Right. Mm-hmm. Love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Seriously. I can't. I'll probably say it a lot. So just don't pay attention to me.
This is so fun. I love talking to you. And I love that you explore the esoteric in the ways that you do.
Yeah, that's like I said, it's one of those things where I had to come to the realization that I am not for everyone, and my writing, my podcasting, my way to living is not for everyone, and that's fine, right? Some people are set apart for a reason. And I figure the writing will be what it needs to be when it needs to be. It's out there for those who are ready for it. And for those who are not, then it'll still be out there, And I trust that it's all in divine timing. I was just like, okay, fine. I'm obedient. So done there.
Obedient.
Not to my mom, not to my husband. But I'll be obedient. So that's where I am. That's where I am. And I think people are afraid of the esoteric because, again, and not to politicize anything, but it would make sense that Western civilization would want us, especially women, to be so bogged down in scraping out a living and so afraid of the esoteric and being a witch and being this and being called X, Y, and Z because we are co-creators. And if we are so busy trying to scratch out a living or too afraid of our birthright to actually lay claim to it, then we can't do what it is that we took on flesh to do, right?
Exactly.
That energy, balance, and bring harmony. And I told my husband after I finally decided he was right, I needed to come home. I told him, I said, fine, then I think you are finally walking into the role that men are supposed to take. We are to be at home creating, and you are to be taking care of us and protecting us. Thank you for doing your job.
Is absolutely the role of the divine masculine to provide and protect, and the role of the divine feminine to nurture, to build community, to create. Right? So powerful.
Yeah, it's a gift. I tell people all the time, right? 30 years of marriage, and I know why I picked him up in high school. I didn't know, but I knew. I was like, boy, we're gonna be married. Sorry. And I was so serious. It was like third date. I was like, dude, and I don't even believe in marriage. Like I think that's the biggest scam for a woman in the universe. I said, but it was like we're stuck together.
30 years. Wow.
I'm 50.
That is impressive.
I'm 50,
You do not look,
so
I was about to say, you do not look 50. You do not
thank
look
you.
50.
Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I hope that you share all of your beauty secrets.
Water. I wash my face with water, and I drink lots and lots of water, and I use Black Girl sunscreen. That's it. That's it. I don't.
My sister says the same thing. She's like, it's water. That's all I do. Water.
At my mom's skin, she's 76. She looks amazing. And I'm just like, Mom, what are you doing? Water. Oh, okay. I'll stick with it then. I'll stick with it. So
water.
That's it. That's
Yes.
it. I love this. I love this. You walked away from this Emmy because you already mentioned Emmy award winning. You have an Emmy.
No. It's so funny. When I brought it home, my friends were like, you should wear it around your neck, girl.
Not Flavor Flav style.
They were.
Let us not do that.
No, of course not.
But it would have been funny though.
So funny. Yes.
Oh my gosh, like a whole Emmy. And yet, so that means, and if I'm putting words in your mouth, let me know. But I'm thinking you won an Emmy for your graphic design.
Yes.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Neither.
Okay, good. Because I was like, am I ignorant?
Girl, I didn't know. You know what I mean? I didn't know you could win an Emmy for being a designer, like a graphic designer at that. Had no idea. I just happened to call into my field this extraordinary project that allowed me to use my skill set, but also the things that I was passionate about. So it was like this culmination where everything that I was passionate about came together in this project. And yes, I won an Emmy for it. I'm so grateful. I am so grateful.
Now I want to know the projects I could go find.
So for most of my career, I worked in advertising. So I was doing commercials for Nike. I did an Adidas thing. I did like a lot of BMW, Lexus, Olympics campaign. I did like Super Bowl commercials. But this particular project, we were so lucky because
I have to stop you. I did BMWs, Lexus, Super Bowl commercials, but for this one, Super Bowl commercials.
Yep. So we were so lucky because I think it was the owner of our company. He lived next door to a high executive at HBO, and so they were neighbors. And she offered us to pitch on a title sequence for an important show called Carnival, and it was at the time when these like drama series were just starting to take shape. So they were at the beginning of it. HBO has been leading this game for a long time. And so we were so excited just to pitch on something different than what we were always doing, because we were always doing these commercials. So it really gave me an opportunity to dive into storytelling. Mm-hmm. And so I created the title sequence for this show Carnival. And the show Carnival was about this traveling carnival show during the Dust Bowl in the 90s, during the Great Depression. And they brought up a lot of themes of good and evil. And at the time, I was living in Los Angeles, had just started learning about tarot, and I had a tarot card reading where this lady told me, she's like, look, you got 10 missions and you're going to have to figure out what they are. But I was just interested in it because I'm like, how can she know that from these cards? It was just so interesting to me. So I created this. I was like, I want to play with these cards. So I created my own tarot card for the show, and the camera swoops in and dives into the cards. And that was the title sequence. And it was incredible because not only did it win an Emmy, but so many other awards. Even like 10 years later in my career, I would show up for to different companies, and they would be using my title sequence as reference for a project. And they're like, Vonetta, like, we're still so crazy about this. So it was
Oh my
wonderful. I'm
gosh.
so
I
grateful
love
that I
that.
had that experience.
And that was kind of like, oh gosh, that's kismet, man. I'm like Carnival. And I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, Vanessa. Is it Vanessa? No, it's Veronica G. Henry. She wrote this book, Bacchanal. My God, you would, if you would probably love this book.
Bacchanal. I like the name. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Carnival
Yeah.
and Bacchus, right? And so
Yep.
ancient African spirit and just all the things. This woman is
Yes. What's her name?
Veronica G. Henry. She
G.
is she's in the fantasy fiction, but it's not. It's more speculative, magical realism stuff. And I told her that when she was on the show. I'm like, oh no, this is speculative, magical realism, ancestral technology. Thank you so much for being here. We love you, Veronica.
And Veronica G. Henry. It reminds me of this book, Wild Seed. You ever
Octavia
read
Butler.
Octavia Butler?
I have not picked up an Octavia Butler book since I finished The Parable Duo, because just let me say to you, you know when you know what you know, but you don't know how you know it, but then it's confirmed. And then you're like, okay, I need a moment.
Yes, I do.
I'm taking a moment.
I
Because
understand.
Octavia Butler was on other frequencies. And so I'm taking a moment. But I know the book. I
want to recommend Wild Seed because you mentioned that, and immediately I thought of Wild Seed when you talked about ancestral technologies.
Yeah, it's on my TBR. I already have the book. I'm taking a break.
Yes, sometimes we need a break. You know, it's so funny that you say that because I have this Irish hermit mentor, and he used to say, Vonetta, when you know that you know. It's like, you can't change that for nothing.
That part.
Yeah.
I remember.
Unmovable.
That's it. I told my husband, I said, once you sneeze, you know you can't unsneeze it. And that's like when you know the no, it's like you can't unknow it. And that is why take the breaks, take the time you need. I love this phrasing, chase herself. Did you chase yourself?
Chase myself?
When you walked away from industry and went on this journey, was it a chase to the self?
You know, I never thought about it that way. But I guess in some regards have been, I don't feel like, actually, to be honest, I actually feel like I stopped chasing when I walked away from the industry, because I feel like the industry was where I was chasing. I was chasing success. I was chasing that next thing, you know, I was trying to keep up. I was trying to create more security, more fulfillment, but I was chasing. I feel like when I turned the other way, I began to walk. And I just walked assuredly, walked with uncertainty, but I walked with grace. And you talked about ease earlier. I decided to walk with grace and ease as much as I could. And so I don't feel like I was chasing the self, but through that walk with grace and ease, I was absolutely going down, like I was descending into myself.
I'm going to look like a fucked turkey when this is all over because of all the goosebumps over here. Oh, your face is like, what is she talking about?
It's so cute. Well, you know, because I'm from the South, so I get it.
But I cannot tone my Southerners down. I don't even try. I used to be like, do I really want to tell people I'm from the South? I'm a Black woman. Can you really be like a happy Southerner? Because there's a dichotomy there that people may not talk about it, but like, how can you be happy Black woman and Southern?
You know what? My mom, she grew up in Asheville, North Carolina. She had to move with her family to Boston when she was 10. She moved back to the South, I want to say almost like 15 years ago, and has been so happy to move back. So yes, happy Black woman, Southerner. Yes.
Yeah. It's something I'm fine with it now. I've had to come to terms with it. Yes, Vicky, you love the South. You are a Southerner and you are happy. This is where your joy is. And I stopped questioning, right? I'm like, yes, my ancestors were enslaved on this land. And yes, I am probably friends or associates with people whose family enslaved my people. And that, I think, is the beauty of the South. As much as we still wrestle with crazy, that's people. That's not the land. It's not the South. And
that's the history.
That's the history of it.
It's not always today. It's in some pockets of today, but it's not in all pockets of today. Yeah. And I feel that that's the work. That's the unity for us to create peace and harmony on the planet. We have to find these centers of unity amongst people who were perpetrators, and amongst these horrible crimes. We have to. How else do we move forward as a society?
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. My grandfather, he grew up next to the oldest Black cemetery in America. So in Asheville, it's a UNESCO heritage site. During the time of slavery, our ancestors were not even able to identify their graves. Yet the white people in his community let their slaves write on the rocks and identify the rocks and the graves of their ancestors. And that's why it's the oldest slave cemetery in our country. And my grandfather grew up right around the corner from that. So those were his ancestors. He was the caretaker of that particular slave cemetery. And he had college students of, all races visit him every summer to understand the history and the legacy of what happened there in that land. And so I feel really blessed because in my grandfather's community in Asheville, there is a sense of shared celebration of life, of reconciliation that happens through the generations just by how we relate with each other. And it's so important.
Well, thank you for giving me a weekend trip. Feels not far, right? It's not far.
It's not far. It's not far.
No, it's one of my favorite cities. And I didn't know that I did not know that they had the oldest cemetery for enslaved people.
I didn't know either.
I love cemeteries. I absolutely love cemeteries.
Me too. Since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drawn to them because I love history. I love ancestry. I love our roots. And I think we honor all aspects of life.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Such rich history for you. I think you needed that to come and do all the things you...
I did. Absolutely. I didn't know I did. And it's so funny. I didn't even know about it until my grandpa, he's like, girl, I got to get off the phone. These kids are coming to meet me. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, I have these kids from Delaware. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Is he in the history books? Are we talking about him?
Of course he's not in the history books, but he's in my living history book.
Because he sounds like a man with a fascinating story.
Yes, he is. Grandpa George. Yeah, my grandpa, he was, when I stepped into this work to be of service, I was like, how did I get here? You know what I mean? Like, I just started to question, how did I even get here? But then I remember my grandfather, and when he retired, even before he retired, he was a gardener. And so his garden had everything. I mean, he planted okra, corn, tomatoes, he had strawberries, he had an orchard, he grew peaches and apples. I mean, you name it, he grew it, right? All of the lettuces. And he told me that he would service all of his neighbors' yards. So he grew the garden. He would plant all of the gardens on all of his neighbors. And then every day, each neighbor, he would tend to their garden. And that was his service. And I realized, oh my God, my grandfather created community. Like, this is where I've learned how to create community because he was in service to his community. He was the one who would make pancakes and cook the food for all the kids on Sunday mornings before church. He was a community builder and a community activator and a community lover and was literally in service. And so I received that from my grandfather. I learned it from my teacher, right? From my shaman, from my mentor, but it was in my DNA because this is how my grandfather lived his life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. We've been talking. I haven't
Let's
asked
go
my
on.
favorite question yet. This always happens to me. So my favorite question is, how are you healing today? How are you healing right now?
I love this question. Love it. So we're gonna dive into this, right? Because I've been on a healing journey since I was 5 years old. So I have been on a healing journey for 47 years and I support healing. Honestly, I've been stepping into being healed, not healing. And this is something that is quite new for me, that I am owning that I have healed, that I'm not still healing. Yes, there are still parts of me, like I have this lower back pain right now that I'm like trying to I'm doing little things that, I'm trying to heal, but I'm really more conscious of what I have healed because I've been on this healing journey for so long. I've healed the relationship with my mother. I've healed my ancestral lineage. I have healed my relationship with with my stepfather and my father, who I've never met. I've healed the relationship with my sister. I've healed my relationship to the divine masculine. So I'm at this place now where I support others' healing, but I can't say that I'm doing much healing work right now personally. The only thing where I'm actually really healing is finances, like learning how to be meticulous and masterful in my investing, in my finances, with my business systems. Like I could say if I am healing one thing, that's where I'm still healing. But I am proudly sitting here today. I can't, I haven't been able to say this for most of my life, but I have healed so much. I've healed my heart. I've healed my insomnia. It's incredible to sit on the other side and say, I healed.
Oh, wow. Look here. Somebody put me in the oven because it is ridiculous. Everything you say resonates so sharply. I have never had anyone say, I've been healing since I was 5. Most people don't even have memories of their 5th year.
That's
And
true.
that's the first year I remember. And the first thing I remembered is telling my mom, I don't think I'm in the right family.
Are you serious?
We laugh about it. But
Yeah,
I
of
told her, I
course.
said, I don't think this is not the right family. And I remember telling her that. I was like, this is not how it was before. And she was like,
So you had
I
the
don't know what you're
memories.
talking about.
You had basically were displaying memories from a past life.
I remember telling her that she didn't know what to say to it. So we just didn't talk about it because, bad Black Baptist and bougie here in South Carolina. That's how we get down. I mean, people are too serious about that stuff. But yeah, and that's the first memory I have. I see pictures of me when I was 3 at a birthday party or whatever, but I don't have any memories until I was 5. 99%.
Yes, my it's so wild. So my earliest memory was when I was 3 years old. So my book starts out with my earliest memory, my very first memory, because I believe one of the gifts that that I have, and the reason why I am able to write the memoir to the depth of remembrance that I have is I have my very first memory when I was 3. I remembered every detail of being 4, of being 5, of 6, of 7. And what's so interesting, we're in our 50s, right? And a lot of people in their 50s are really just starting this healing journey. So I had a college friend reconnect with me on Facebook, and then we started messaging each other. Then we started talking. And she said, Vonetta, it's incredible that you're doing this work now, helping other people heal. She said, because I remember when you were 20 years old and you were talking about healing your family lineage. And she said, I'm working on that right now, but you were talking about it in college. And so I think that because I started my healing journey so young, I've, been pulling it all up to look at it, but I didn't always have support. And the work that I do now gave me a process to really dive into the shadows, into my trauma in a way that I had never been able to dive into it before. Because so much of my healing before was I would talk about it. I didn't really know how to really get into the underbelly of my own personal trauma until I did shamanic work.
I don't have words. There. You stumped the writer. I don't have any words. Thank you so much for bringing up your book, because that's our next section, this intentional writing that I find Black women writers do effortlessly. It's not something that, and I'm not saying all right, because there is no all, but the women I have on my show, there is an intentionality in the writing. And I always ask, like, do you know the medical definition of the word intentions? And that's the look I always get. And because I'm a whole word nerd, I went down the rabbit hole maybe 8 years ago. I was working my own spiritual stuff out, and I needed some place to work it out. But I found that this word means the healing process of a wound. And I thought to myself, well, why don't we get that definition? Like, why are we looking at intention as a goal? I like that definition, healing process of a wound. And isn't that beautiful?
Oh, I'd never heard the medical definition before. The healing process of a wound is intention.
And we live with intention. We act intentionally. We setting intentions. But if you call it what it is, we act as parts of healing process of these kind of soul wounds and that's why right? Like, that's why we're here.
Yeah. That is so beautiful. I am going to chew on this for some time, because so much of my work is intentionality. I invite people to bring their intentions when we work together, and I don't share it from the way I explain intention is that a goal is something that is more tangible, objectionable, that we're trying to work toward. The intention for me is the embodiment. What is the energy, the state of being that you need to hold for yourself in order to reach that goal? And so some people, for example, may have the intention of finding their tribe and or goal of finding their tribe, finding their soul family, since we talked about that. The intention behind it would be, I want to be open to meeting more people of like mind. The intention would be to open my heart so that I can be receptive to meeting those people. My intention may be to explore more so that I can be in places where I can meet my soul family. So that's how I've seen it. But I have never thought about it this way, as a healing process for a wound.
Yeah,
that is deep.
It floored me. I can't even remember what episode it was, but if I go back and look through it and I find it, I'll send you.
Well, please do. I wanna listen to that.
Yeah. So the intentional writing, this is like the healing writing. And a lot of times we don't know we're healing ourselves when we're writing. Some writers know I'm healing too, I'm writing to heal myself. But I love that I get to talk to you about this book. I am so excited. I'm trying not to geek out, but you know what? There's a really good chance I'm going to geek out over here. So don't laugh at me. So you said this is your cathartic book, your most cathartic book. Please talk to us about The Shaman's Apprentice. Like, oh my gosh, I haven't read it yet, so no spoilers, but there, the floor is yours.
No spoilers. So The Shaman's Apprentice, it was my most cathartic books. What happened with this book? Okay, I want to give you a little bit of backstory, because I honor that you've been a writer your whole life. And the way that you talk about writing is so beautiful to me. And this intentionality of Black women writers. And, I remember when I found Maya Angelou's writing, when I found Zora Neale Hurston's writing, when I found Toni Morrison, it touched my soul so deeply. And I was like, oh, I want to be like that. I want to write stories like them. But I was not a good writer. I actually used to cry when I would write. So cut to, I am graphic designer, just living my life. I have this Vedic astrology reading with this 9th generation Vedic astrologer. And he tells me, you are a writer. It's written in the stars. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I am not a writer. Like, I'm a designer. Like, that is not true. And yet I remember having this inner dream since college that I wanted to write stories like the stories of my favorite authors on earth. And yet I didn't know how to connect those two things. But when I had this plant medicine ceremony with my shaman in Kauai, and I was taken to the center of the earth in a crystal elevator. That experience changed my life so dramatically because I experienced something that felt so real, more real than this reality, and yet I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know what it really was. And I was told by my higher self, my guides, my ancestors, whatever you call that higher intuition, God, that I had to write a book about this. And so that was in 2012.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
If you're a Black or brown woman writer who's been carrying a story in your body for far too long, Southern Momentum Publishing House has a seat for you. At SOMO, we don't do those cold clinical workshops that make you shrink to fit. We host writing spaces where your whole self is welcome. Your ancestors, your dialect, your rage, your softness, your erotic power, all of it. Every month, our workshops guide you back to your creative brilliance through somatic practices, generative prompts, decolonial craft lessons, and community that actually feels like community. Whether you're unraveling old narratives in Decolonizing the Erotic, finding your truest voice in Story Doula Essentials, or shaping your next book inside a sacred, collaborative container, we help you write from the place where your spirit sits upright. If you're ready to move from stuck to sovereign, visit www.somopubhouse.org and join a room designed for your becoming.
And now, back to the Black Writer Therapy Podcast with your host and unlicensed doula therapist, Ella Shawn, and today's guest, Vonetta Rain, author of The Shaman's Apprentice.
And it was so interesting because I was like, I'm listening. I'm going to write this however. And they first told me, talk about fiction. They told me I needed to write it as fiction because no one's going to believe me when I share these stories of my own experience. And so I started out on this path of writing fiction. And that was like a few years. And then slowly, as the awakening of consciousness grew on our planet, somewhere along the way, they said, you know what, Vonetta, you can just write this story as it is real for you, as it is true. Mm-hmm. And that is what birthed The Shaman's Apprentice. And for the longest time, I was like rewriting because I wasn't comfortable with my voice. It took me time to really develop my voice. And it wasn't until I went to Peru in 2020, I want to say it was 2022, I abandoned everything that I had written before, which was just rewrite to try to perfect it, that I just said, you know what? I'm just going to write from my soul. I'm going to give myself permission to just write purely from my heart, whatever wants to show up. And that was when I wrote my 100 pages without stopping, and I wrote it in 5 weeks. And that's when I felt like this is what it feels like to be a writer. That other stuff, it was like learning, mechanics. This is like, oh my God, I'm writing something that I feel is really my authentic truth. And that became the early years for my book. And then I put it away, and then I wrote 500 pages in 2.5 weeks, and it just birthed through me. It just it's all been inside of me because it's my living memory. But I had so many stories that for the longest time, I didn't know how to organize it. I didn't know which stories to tell. And then all of a sudden, it just came together with my decision to be committed. I'm not the kind of writer who can like write every single day and live regular, normal life. I'm more of a focused writer. You're a method writer. And so I need to have uninterrupted space and devoted time where I just go in. And so that's the Shaman's Apprentice. But it's this story of my life, of how I found this shaman from Peru in San Francisco in the Bay Area. Like, I didn't even know there were shamans in our country, first of all, because I studied shamanism and I thought they were in Peru and Mongolia and Africa. I had no idea they were in our country. How I even came to find him, how he took me under his wing and gifted me this mentorship in the art of healing that is so ancient and indigenous. And I mean, it's just this is the story, how I got there, how I was prepared for it, how I got to become the Shaman's Apprentice, and what happened after. You know, how I stepped into this dharmic path and led these 800 retreats around the world to support people's healing processes, to support the healing of traumas, to support the healing of sexual abuse for people. You name it, everything has come up in these processes. And so I share it in my story. And I share the tools and the wisdom that I learned along the way. And one thing that is really interesting for me as a writer, that was a big decision that I had to make with my book, was I had to grow up from being this girl who was raised by a single mother who did not finish high school to this person who is now supporting industry leaders on earth, like global influencers, supporting, like, you know what I mean? Like masters in their field. And so I hold a different consciousness now and awareness and language than when I was young. And I could have written the story from who I am today and the whole thing, like from my perspective today. But it was really important for me to give readers this journey of transformation, for them to see the transformation in me. And so I tried to write the book from the consciousness that I held, the language that I held at the time that I was writing. So when I was 5, I'm writing from that language that I had when I was 5. When I was 12, I'm writing it from that language. When I was in college, from that language and up. So you really see this evolution of language and consciousness through the book. And that was fun for me. That was just like a writing style that, with my editor, who is my son, we're going to talk about that. But he was like, okay, we can do this a couple of different ways. Like I can actually do it from now and give flashbacks, or we can do it your way. And I was like, no, I want them to be completely immersed in my experience, because I feel it's important to show like how I liberated myself essentially from being trapped in my trauma story. I was completely trapped. And so this book, The Shaman's Apprentice, shares that journey.
You are speaking to the publisher in me now, because I am like, this is me, right? They can't see me being ravenous, but your process has to be one of the dopest I've heard in a long time. To give yourself over to every single voice that has led you from 5 years old to the 25-year-old that you are right now. Just kidding, y'all. She's gorgeous stuff, right? But yes, to give in to every voice and be able to fully embody it in a way that allows your reader to immerse into your life. You're just going to drop us right. So you're just going to drop us into your life. And we are not going to meet this very poised, beautiful woman who has gone through all of this. No, we're going to meet a little 5-year-old girl who's in the thick of whatever it is she's in the thick of. Do you know how dope that is?
It also was just what was real. Like, you talk about intentionality with writing and how writing is this cathartic process. That's also, it was just like when I like softened and just allowed myself to express the most pure expression of what I want to share for this book, that's what came out. And I just wanted to honor that as my truth. And I have to say that like catharsis when I was writing. I mean, I have worked through, you're going to read about, if those of you who read this story and when you read about my 5-year-old self and what I experienced, and, you feel it, because how can you not? I share it from my visceral experience. I have reworked that story over and over again. I carried that story until I healed it, but I had to relive it again when I was writing it. And I definitely feel that in the writing of it, even like, it was not even like a healing, it was a release. I got to let it go. And that was so powerful.
Go do this to me. Okay. Yeah.
Got to let it go. Because I've been healing it. I brought it to all my ceremonies. You know what I mean? I brought it to my shaman, but I released it, and I released the blame. I released the judgment. I released the shame. I cried for days when I was writing it. It was so powerful for me.
Yeah. Everything that you just said is the reason I am always saying to people, if you can't talk about it, write. I don't care if the only thing you can do is get one word out, and that word is the greatest explicative in the world, and you just keep writing it over and over. Write. Start writing, because it is. Words are magic. And I say this not with a tongue in cheek. Words are magic.
So we are going to end this session of Black Writer Therapy Podcast, and we'll return next week with the second half of our conversation with Vonetta Rain. Thank you so much. Let's do it for the lady. Reclamation of the woman. Reclamation. Reclamation of the woman. Come on. Hey, here's that face to face with myself and my lies. I let chase me into the bottomless pit. Come on. I now stand and I tell myself to feel better about the choices I didn't make. About the chances I was too scared, too afraid to take. About the hurt I swallowed, about the pain I let follow. Then put me in my current state, in my place, in my current place.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Black Writer Therapy, where we amplify and celebrate the voices of unapologetic Black women writers. We're proud to be part of the Alive Podcast Network. Be sure to tap into the only Black woman-owned podcast network with its very own proprietary platform and app. When you download the Tap In app, you gain access to nearly 100 Black creative voices. To support Black Writer Therapy, subscribe and choose me as your favorite podcast host. 50% of your subscription fee goes directly to this show and allows me to continue to bring you quality content like this. Until next time, remember, be kindest to yourself first, always, and in all ways. I am Alishan, your host for Black Writer Therapy Podcast.